We're breaking down barriers, answering the call. Voices of the silenced echo through the night. We shine the light on truth, making wrongs right. Justice, watch, we see it clear. Overviewing the system, no need to fear. Breaking down the laws, talking truth all day. On justice, watch, shall we pave the way? From the court to the street, every voice counts. We're digging through the noise, making sense of doubt. With courage in our hearts and fire in our eyes, we seek the hidden truths and expose the lies. Justice, watch, we see it clear. Overviewing the system, no need to fear. Breaking down the laws, talking truth all day. On justice, watch, shall we pave the way? So let's march together with the sound of change. Through the trials, tribulations, we rearrange. With each episode, know that we'll stand strong. To the beat of justice that goes on and on. Justice, watch, we see it clear. Overviewing the system, no need to fear. Breaking down the laws, talking truth all day. On justice, watch, shall we pave the way?
All right, everybody, welcome to episode 27 of Justice Watch Live, the official podcast for Justice as a Process. And tonight we are going to be covering the Naziah Harris preliminary hearing that went on last week. We're going to be breaking it down now. We may have to do this in 2 episodes because there was a lot. It was 4 days. We're going to be trying to break it down, talk about it, and talk about what we found out and what were questions answered as to what happened to this young lady. Now, for those of you who don't know what the Naziah Harris case is, Naziah Harris on the 9th of January, 2024, went missing. Now, some unique things happened in this case because her caretakers, which was her grandmother and her aunt, failed to report her missing for 24 hours. They called some friends, and first time this girl's ever missing, and they just said, we're asleep on it. The next day, they show up at her school, they make a report, and a search begins. And they figure out that she gets off a bus. They figure out that she's with her uncle. And then she's never seen or heard from again. Now, months pass. Her uncle goes to jail. There's investigations, there's searches, there's a quiet investigation going on in the background. And in September of this year, her uncle is arrested. And this is her uncle by marriage, is arrested. And it's uncovered that she was in a relationship with her uncle, that she was pregnant by her uncle. At least this is what comes out in his hearing. And he is bound over for a preliminary hearing, which is what we got to see. They've never recovered a body. So this is a case how they have no body. They have some clothes. They have some blood. And it's a mystery of what happened. Now, it's not really a mystery after you watch this hearing, though. And that's what we're going to talk about. And we're going to take it witness by witness. We're going to break it down, and we're going to discuss it. So that's the background here. I apologize for coming in late here. I got a couple of, I've got the kids here. And so if you hear some background noises, I do apologize. It's just the nature of being a dad and trying to also do this at the same time. So with that said, that is the background. That's what happened. And I agree, Cold Lemonade. I absolutely agree. It is funny how they went to the school before the police. To me, if one of my children didn't come home, I am not sleeping on. In fact, I'm not even sleeping, right? The fact that they could sleep and they were just comfortable. And then you hear in the testimony from this past week, the aunt says, oh, this is the first time this has ever happened. But they're not concerned because I think there's more to the story. And I think there's more to what everybody knew. And I think that there's other people right now that need to be held accountable. Thank you, Corey. So we're gonna talk about it. So anyways, let's jump into it here. The first witness, now when I started watching this case, I actually did not realize I was watching day 2. I did not realize they already had a day 1, and I didn't realize that the station I was watching was broadcasting the afternoon session. So when I first saw this case, I'm like, man, holy cow, this case seems light on details, light on facts. And I was like, what the heck's going on? But it turns out there was a day of, or at least an hour of preliminary hearing that began in 2024. I believe it was the end of November when this hearing took place. But this individual here, we introduced Cordell Wright. Who is Cordell Wright? Where he goes by the nickname King, and he is actually a quite important guy in this story. And we're going to get into how important he is, because he is the last known person besides Jarvis Butts to have seen Naziah Harris alive. So now Cordell is a business associate of Jarvis. They were running a garage together in January of 2024 when all of this went down. And that he was on it. Now Cordell, and this becomes kind of a corroborating piece of evidence to another witness's testimony, but he was on a tether, basically meaning he was on a home confinement. He had an ankle monitor, and he had a curfew, and that becomes significant. So when he testifies, he says, yes, he was on a tether from March 14, 2023 to March 28, 2024. He tells the court that the witness first met Butts while he was working at Frank's auto shop. And he says that they ended up co-owning the shop that they were at, that some of these witnesses see Naziah Harris, that he was working at the day that all of this went down. He testifies that he did observe Jarvis Butts with his kids, the sons, the daughters, the nieces at Frank's Auto Body. And then there was a jail call. Okay. And we're going to play that jail call. Give me a moment here. Let me get it in. Give me a moment here. So we're going to play that up. Let me cue it up. Make sure we got it queued up here. Is that it right there? Yes, it is. All right, cool. And he is recorded because Jarvis, when he gets jailed, Jarvis ends up going to jail in February. This is after all this happened. And Jarvis, as soon as he gets in jail, he calls his good friend Cordell because he needs Cordell to do something for him. And that is, he needs him to get a cell phone that Jarvis has left in one of his various women that he sees car. And that cell phone has all sorts of incriminating stuff on it. And he is trying to get Cordell to get this phone. And this becomes a big part of this hearing, but here's the phone call and him describing this.
The day before Valentine's Day, so like February 13th.
February 13th, and is that of 2024?
Yes.
Okay. All right, and at that time, were you presented with a jail call?
Yes.
Okay. And who was that jail call with?
Jarvis.
Okay. And who was he talking to?
Me.
All right. And what was the topic of that jail call?
He called to ask would I receive a cell phone out of a truck for him.
And were you familiar with what truck he was asking you to get it from?
Yes.
What truck was that?
It was a Z71 Chevy Suburban.
And did you know who that truck belonged to?
Yeah, his baby mom or somebody he was dealing with.
Okay. And do you recall listening to that jail call?
Yeah, I recall.
Okay. If I would move to admit the jail call from, I believe it's February 8th, 2024, between Mr. Wright and Mr. Jarvis.
Any objection?
No objection.
What's the exhibit number on that?
Sorry, that's exhibit number 1.
It would be admitted as if it's exhibit 1.
Thank you, Judge. And may I publish?
Yes, I mean, co-host.
Thank you, Judge.
So this is the jail call. We're going to hear this here. This is Jarvis, and this is Cordell talking about the cell phone. Some of these are a little hard to hear, but that's what this is going to be about here.
And for the record, I am playing People's Exhibit 1.
That's it.
This is a one-time free 3-minute call from an inmate at Wade County Jail. Your phone is not set to collect calls. This call has been provided by Helming as a courtesy for friends and family. You cannot receive additional calls from this instance until you call prepaid. We can take your credit or debit card information over the phone and connect you immediately back to your call. This call is subject to recording and monitoring. Press 1 to accept all communications from this. Thank you for using Helming.
My guy, what's up, man?
Nah, shit, man. What's happening?
Nah, shit, man. How you feeling? My bad, I missed your call. I was working like a motherfucker.
I figured they said you was up there banging, said something banging.
Yeah, you know it.
What's up, my nigga? Who is that, Tim? What's up, boy?
You know it.
Hey, shit. Man, I'm calling, man. These bitches, they put my money on my motherfucking books, bro.
Oh, yeah, take a minute for them to put that shit on there. Even if you walk in with it, man, they be playing it crazy.
Yeah, right.
I swear to God. They do that machine and shit. You show you straight, you need something. I mean, I'm not getting a couple hours for that, baby.
Yeah, you know, I have some money on my books, nigga. I came in with money.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so they put this shit on my hookup. I was looking on the tablets. I didn't come up $0. That's some bullshit.
That shit crazy.
Yeah.
How is it, though?
Man, that's some bullshit. I'm really gonna be quarantined on this whole shit, bro.
Oh, yeah, they got you on that quarantine club for how long? 3 days?
I don't know how long, nigga. Shit, I'm about to be the only one in this bitch on my part.
You say, what happened?
I said, shit, I'm about to be the only one. Remember me and young enough in this motherfucker, we want these boys up in this bitch.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
What you need?
Huh?
No, I was asking something what that customer needs. Man, listen. You straight?
Yeah, good, my nigga.
Huh?
So yeah, I'm good, oh, shit, yeah. You got Tasha number, right?
Yeah.
So, Dig, I need you to call her one day, nigga, and get that truck up there, nigga. Get my phone up there, backseat, bro.
Oh, man. All right. Well, I'm going to get the truck up there. What will tell her?
Tell her you fuck around and lost a car that there too when we was moving the radio.
Okay.
Now,
You have 1 minute remaining for this call.
reach behind that back seat.
Where? Yeah.
So you reach behind that back seat, bro. There's a box right there. Straight behind the middle of that back seat, bro.
Okay, under it or in the back or in the back
In
thing?
the back, like right in the back of the seat, bro.
Okay.
On the second row.
I got all I need. You know you took the key She took the key to the gate.
It's the same key.
I don't got that key to it.
Yeah, you do. It's the same key to the lock and the door.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. All right.
Yeah, it's the same key. But I thought
Now, you know, I got to. I'll put the money on the phone later, man. When I get around, baby, I will put the credit card.
I thought you get him on that. I call my wife and have her bring up the key.
No, I don't need it, though. If you said the same one, I got it. So I don't need it right now anyway. Just when I get the scrap out of there.
Okay.
So there you have it. He actually makes this call to Cordell, and actually, yes, cold lemonade. I guess he didn't realize, or he didn't care that the jail calls were being recorded, or maybe he didn't think anybody was going to be watching them. You know, the situation from here, and again, that cell phone becomes extremely important because of messages we're going to hear later on. So we move on to the rest of the testimony here from that day. So he tells the court that they were working on a Jaguar, a red Jaguar, this red Jaguar, and this becomes significant. So all these things that we're talking about here, and this is why they put him on first, are significant to understanding other witnesses who were eyewitnesses to seeing Neziah with Jarvis that day. And he says that, and let me take this off for you guys so you can see the deal here. So he says that they go and pick up this, or they work on this Jaguar. And he tells them that they're driving down the road because they had to go pick up some auto parts or from somewhere. And he says they encounter Neziah on the road walking, and he says, "Hey, Jarvis kind of flags her down and says, 'Hey, that's my niece,' and picks her up." So this is the next clip we're going to watch because this is very important. We're not going to watch these entire testimonies. By the way, you can find the entire testimonies from this hearing, everything that we're discussing. You can find it on the channel. It's linked in the description under testimonies. You can go back and watch each and every one of these individual testimonies that we're going to talk about and that we're going to get into. Also, what you may have seen, new edition for 2025, all channel members will be getting as we're covering trials. If it's a featured trial, and we're going to try to do it on every time we're featuring or digging deep into a case, you will be getting, in addition, when these videos go up and we're putting up the individual testimonies, you'll be getting a sheet just like this that will be available in the community page for you to be able to see and have. And it's kind of a cheat sheet to watch and understand. It's a little bit of a bigger deep dive into the testimony. So you have the highlighted points. And that way, when you're going back through and you're watching the case, if you screen grab these or print them out, you can, or download them, you can have these as you're watching the case. But so let's get into this description here. And remember, when you're watching this, this is the moment of abduction. This is the moment that she was abducted. Now, of course, Cordell doesn't know this. He thinks he's just picking up his niece, of course, and he keeps her with him. This is why it's going to be significant when we tie all this together and we talk about what I think happened, which I think the judge agrees with what I think happened, that this was not a situation where he was planning to kill this girl and he was planning to take her life. He was planning to take a life, but it wasn't hers. It was a life inside of her that he knew he had to get taken care of because he knew he was going to be going to jail, and he knew she could not give birth to that child because that would then basically be proof that he was having an inappropriate relationship with her. But we'll get to that. But I want you to understand that's where I think he was going with this. So he picks her up. That's why he's not hiding it. And I also believe there was that there were other people complicit in knowing what they were about to do or attempt to do, hence why they were not in a panic, why they weren't calling the school, why they weren't taking the actions. And then, of course, when she doesn't show up and Jarvis goes AWOL and he's not answering his phone and she never comes around, Grandma's got to go to the school and say, all right, well, we better go report it to the school. And they're doing that because they want to deflect away from them. And they want to be like, hey, did something happen to her at the school? Was she abducted? Because I think they have an idea of what happened, but they're not able to prove it. But anyways, let me pull this up here. All right. So let me pull up this clip here. And let's bring it back up here. And this is the clip. This is him describing the moment that they pick up Naziah Harris. So let's start this thing.
Around going back to AutoZone, grabbed whatever we forgot, came back. And on our way back, we was coming down Harbor. Jarvis said, I see my niece right there. She walking. We pulled into Angel's liquor store. I still didn't see her. He pointed across my face, said she right there. She was coming across the street at that time. She got in the truck with us. She spoke, hi King, hi Jay, and we proceeded back to the shop.
Okay. So, when you guys are driving to these auto parts stores, who's driving?
Jarvis,
Okay, and where are you at?
passenger seat.
Okay. And you said when you guys are heading back to the shop the second time, that's when you said Jarvis spots someone?
Yes,
Who does he say that he spots?
his niece.
His niece, okay. And do you recognize his niece?
Yes, when I see her, when he pointed her out to me, yes, I recognize her walking across the street.
Okay. And so you guys pull over. Where does she get into the car at?
I believe she getting behind me, so the back seat behind me.
Okay. Does Jarvis say anything to her?
Yeah, she speaks to both of us, and we speak back.
Okay. What does he say to her?
Hi.
Hi. Okay. And where do you guys go after you pick up his niece?
Back to the shop.
Okay, and that's at 9,000 Connor?
Yes.
Okay. And what do you guys do when you get back to 9,000 Connor?
He back in. We get out. We proceed to working on the Jaguar. I may have got out the car first with the parts, and he was in the car with her for a second. I got out, started working on the Jaguar.
And what happens next? What do you guys do?
I believe she get out, get into the front seat, reposition herself to the front seat of his truck. It was colder that day. I believe she started the truck. We started working on the Jaguar, putting the parts back on. It took a little minute. Like I said, it was a difficult job, so it took a while. At some point, I believe his truck ran out of gas, so we had to stop what we were doing to push his truck to the gas pump so he could get some gas.
So you said that she gets out of the car that you guys were in?
Yes.
Okay, and then she gets into Jarvis' truck?
No. We was always in Jarvis' truck.
Okay.
So she gets out of the back seat and repositions herself to the front seat so she can start the cover.
And tell me, what kind of car, or what kind of truck does Jarvis drive?
Escalade.
Okay. And what color?
It's pearl white.
All right, so we're not going to listen to the entirety of that testimony. Like I said, it's available. You can watch it on the channel. You can see the whole thing. But essentially what goes on next is he talks about, as you heard, they go back to the shop. They finish repairing things. They do their routine where they exchange money, and then they leave. And he leaves the shop, and Naziah and Jarvis are there. And after that, no one ever sees her again. And they leave, and the next day, Jarvis is supposed to be at work, and he tells the court, and guess what? Jarvis doesn't show up. That's really where it all ends with him. Now, I agree. I was seeing in chat where people are saying, I think this guy knows more. I think he does too. I mean, I think everybody knows more that's around him. And it is absolutely inconceivable that these people could not have known his prior charges, the 10 years he spent in prison. And this guy's running around with him. I mean, he knew what he was into with this little girl. I believe, but that guy's not telling anything more than he needs to. He's telling enough, but he's not enough that he thinks keeps him from getting into trouble with this whole thing, because it's a very serious situation that's occurring. And I think that, I think he knows that this is some serious business, and that this is a problem. So after Cordell is called, right, the hearing gets delayed, and we kind of have a foundational basis of understanding this thing. So the next witness that we have, and again, I want you to understand, he was called because of all those factors that you're going to hear, and some of these are from some of the witnesses we're going to be reviewing here. There are things that he testified to and confirmed that they're going to confirm, and these things were independently said before he ever talked to the authorities. So that's why it makes them corroborated statements in terms of what he says happened, and the fact that he himself is telling everyone that Neziah was with them. Now, the next witness is the grandma. Now, the grandma is absolutely jaw-dropping. If you haven't watched this testimony, you need to. First of all, the first thing it's going to tell you is there's not a tear shed. Not a tear shed. She doesn't cry. She's not upset. And this is a granddaughter that's been missing now for over a year. And this woman sheds no emotion. Zero emotion. Of course, this is also the same woman who slept not knowing where this young lady was and didn't bother to report to the police, didn't bother to go out. It is some really egregious testimony here when you watch this. But she basically, gets into the, when she gets on the stand, she testifies about how Neziah came to be in her, or came to be living with her, that she adopted Neziah. She talks about a morning routine. And by the way, there's a tape out there. There's a live. I believe it's Neek at Night. You guys got to go watch it. She has up here the routine in the morning. It's unbelievable. This woman is cursing out all those kids that before they end up in their prayer circle that you hear this lady describe. She's cursing these kids out left and right. And then they get in the prayer circle, and then there's more cursing. And it's because they don't have socks and they don't have this. And it's like, hey, look, these are kids, man. That's I have four sons. And when we're in the morning trying to get out the door, yeah, it's a little hectic. It's a little crazy. But for her to be cursing the kids out the way I saw on that, it just tells you this is not somebody with love in her heart. And it's funny to see that that's what you're doing before you're praying, and then you're turning and doing it after you're praying, and you're like, what gives here? I mean, this is craziness. But anyways, she talks about the routine. She gets the children up at 6 a.m. She gets them dressed. By 7:15, they're saying prayers, and they're getting into the car. Apparently, Neziah attended the J. Clark Preparatory Academy in Detroit. Says she was a good student. She also says that Jarvis Butts is the father of Shannon's children. 5 children this lady has with this guy, this predator. So guy's in jail for 10 years. And I'm like, how is she having 5 children with this guy? I mean, it's unbelievable, because he was in jail for 10 years and then he gets out. I guess he just starts popping children out like left and right. I mean, and you got to think this lady had to know his history. So you're going to have children with somebody with that type of a history. Unbelievable. But of course, there's also other charges, and it's my understanding that this man has done things even with his own children that are absolutely disturbing. So this guy is disturbing at another level when you get into this case. So basically she talks about that she drops him off at the house, or not that she drops her off at the school. She confirms the clothing that is later found, the jacket, the sweatshirt, the shoes, all these are found in the woods later. She confirms all of those items were hers, that all of those were what she was wearing the day that she went missing. And it's significant here because that stops the clock. We know she didn't have an overnight bag. We know she didn't have any of these things that would say that you're going to go just take off. Now, that doesn't mean that Jarvis couldn't be storing her somewhere and providing her with these things, but we know Jarvis was only available to do any of those things until February. So the question is, what happened to her? Where did she go? We know that about 9:30 on January 9th, Jarvis and her are together when Cordell leaves that, or I guess it was maybe 8 o'clock at night. I think his tether went off at 8. But basically, whenever he left in the evening time, it was 8 o'clock. because he checked into the hotel at 9:30. But we know at 8 o'clock at night, when he's leaving, he makes sure he gets home for that tether to not get busted for being, home in time. We know they're together. And after that, nobody ever sees her again. Nobody ever sees, there's no indication that she's alive. There's nothing on social media. It all stops. And this lady here has identified that those clothes that are later found in the woods with blood on them is what she was wearing that day. So it is absolutely, very significant with what she brings to the table, saying that's, that I'm making that identification. So next, she talks about her social media activity. She says that she wasn't supposed to be on really, she would be monitored. That she looks like she says she was on TikTok. She was on Facebook. She said that she's had to take her tablet away. She gave her a tablet. I think it was for Christmas. But she says that on her social media, all social media posts have stopped. All posts to TikTok have stopped. All TikTok dances have stopped. So it's pretty clear that is when she passed away. Because again, when you have all of that stops and there's no more, activity, that's a good indication that unfortunately this little girl has passed on. And she says basically that when she gets home, she goes to pick up her other grandkids from her after school. Neziah wasn't supposed to be at the after school. She thought she was home. She goes home. She connects with her daughter, the aunt, right? And she says, "Oh, Neziah's not home." So what do? They make a few phone calls. They call a few friends, and then they go have dinner and they eat the rest. They go on with their night. Their granddaughter's just missing. What's it matter, right? That's crazy. That's nuts. That doesn't make any sense. But that's what she says. And I believe she knew something, and I believe they expected her to be missing because I think they knew that Jarvis was going to go try to take care of this problem that existed. And clearly, what has also become clear is that they all knew the kind of guy Jarvis was. They knew Jarvis had lots of women. They knew Jarvis was doing things with inappropriate things with young girls. I think they knew all of this. And I think that they discovered some of her messages or discovered that this was happening. And I think that they then said, "Listen, you go, Jarvis, you go take care of this, because if you don't take care of this, then we're going to have to, this is going to come out." And they let her go and turned a blind eye to it. Obviously, when you're 5.5 months pregnant and you're trying to do something at home, I don't think it's going to go well. Whatever he didn't go well. I believe she bled out. I believe that he then had to do whatever it was that he did with the body. Why the body's not been found, why they haven't been able to do it, I don't know. It is absolutely, to me, very concerning that that's the case. I wouldn't think of him as being somebody who would be capable, as Cody Thompson was saying in there. You just don't make bodies disappear. I agree. It reminds me of the Ole Miss case where there's the student, the young man that was disappeared down there. But something is off. Something happened. Now, here's the thing. It's only been a year, and they could still find something. Her body could still be found. But right now, it hasn't been. And right now, that's going to be a problem that's going to carry this case through until they don't have a body. As they're trying to go through this, it's going to be a problem. But this is the evidence, to me, strong evidence that she has passed on. So the next witness that comes on after the grandma comes on, it's the aunt, Shannon. And she comes in and she testifies that she testifies that she knew, that obviously that Jarvis and her were involved. She had 5 kids with Jarvis. She testifies that she was at home all day. She testifies that she saw her go to school. She, again, identifies the clothes. She identifies what she was wearing that morning. And she says, yes, that's exactly what she's wearing. She says that she went on, and at one point, and I guess when Neziah came up missing, she says that she goes into the tablet, looks at Instagram, and sees 2 Instagram messages that were of an inappropriate nature, which prompts her to then call Jarvis and say, what is going on? And he never answers. And she doesn't hear from him again until I think it's the next day or the day after. And she says that, again, this didn't alarm her. She doesn't go down to Jarvis's shop. She doesn't go look for her. She just goes on with her night, stays in, takes care of her other kids. Grandma doesn't worry about it. Aunt doesn't worry about it, even though they're responsible for caretaking this young lady. And she says, it is what it is. Now, she, in my opinion, I think she figured this stuff out well before the 9th of January. I think she was obviously probably not happy with her niece. And I don't think she cared much for her niece. And I don't think she cared that her niece didn't come back, because I think, in this case, her niece was messing with her man. So can you imagine how this lady had to feel? And that's why you're not seeing tears. Again, this lady gets on the stand, not one tear shed for her missing niece. Not one bit of emotion, not one bit of love, nothing. Now, if you go back and you watch Nick at Night and you go back and you watch the video that she put on there, you will understand the household that this young lady was coming up in. There isn't a lot of love in that household, in my opinion, from what I saw in that video. And that is one video and one snippet, but it was actually the aunt who was taking that video live on her Instagram, showing the world what type of house they lived in, as everybody is screaming and hollering at these children. So I believe 100% that she knew that what was happening with this child. And I just feel like, to me, that's what was happening. Now, the next witness, these were the two witnesses that come on in the morning, right? They've established that her social media stopped. They've identified what she was wearing, and all this becomes significant because it ties in the next witnesses that come on talking about the physical evidence. We have Derek Wolf. Derek Wolf is the guy at the school district, and we can kind of roll through some of these because some of these guys were just brought in for little pieces of the puzzle. He comes in. He's the one who interviews the grandma, and he says that they checked the bus route. They went and found the bus. They saw that she got off the bus. They had camera of her getting on. He speaks to two students, but doesn't do much else. He's about to retire, and he passes the case on. So he passes it on to a colleague and moves on. But what he is able to bring to the picture is he's able to establish that she did get on the bus and that she did get off the bus. And he says, okay, that's able to be established. Pictures are introduced. Exhibits are introduced for he was brought in for that purpose. Now, the next person that comes on, and again, some of these names I might not have completely correct, but I believe her name's Margaret Lavalo. Now, she's from the Wayne County Medical Examiner's Office. She comes on because she was part of the search team, and she talks about the finding the clothing and shoes in the woods. And what she basically says, she doesn't really do any testing of this. She just comes in. She talks about collecting them. Now, it's established by the defense that obviously there were other people that found them. It wasn't her. So she can only talk about what she did to secure these items. But these items are very important because blood and DNA is later found on these, including the defendant's DNA is found on these later on. But we'll get to that. So they come in. She talks about that. She establishes these items were found. The sweatshirt, the shoes, the jacket, all these items that are found in the woods. And these are found in, I believe it was March. Do we have a date in here? It'll be in another section, but it was found because there's an agent that actually did the finding, and he talks about finding them and then securing them until this lady arrives. But it was March 14th of 2024 when these were found, because they were doing a search party by the Rouge River, and they find these things in the river. That is, significant because, again, these are the clothes with blood on them that she wore on the day she went missing. That indicates that something happened in those clothes. She's no longer here. No one can find her. So this is strong evidence that she has passed away. And that's what the significance of this is, or some of the significance of what this is, in addition to the DNA evidence that is found on those items linking the defendant to the case. So here is the next witness that comes on. And again, I'm not 100% certain. If I have some of these names wrong, I apologize. But we have Tiana Butts. She is Jarvis. Jarvis Butts is her brother. And now this is where some of what King testified to comes in, because she testifies that she was at the garage getting the car or getting her car checked out by Jarvis. And she says she observes a little girl getting in and out of the white Cadillac and Escalade that Jarvis was driving around. And she says she later identifies her as Naziah. She says she sees her walk into a gas station. And she says she was there, and this is the 9th. Again, this is the same time Cordell is saying that he was with her. She says later on, Cordell tells her that is who was with them, that is who she observed in the garage. Says yes, Jarvis, or that's who was with Jarvis Butts. She goes and contacts the police later on when they find out about this. So the next witness that comes on, this is the aunt of one of Cordell's sons who was working. She had a red Jaguar that needed to be worked on. And they actually go to her house to drop this Jaguar off, and they bring Naziah with them. And she identifies that Naziah's with them. So here we have Naziah now going across town. And what she says is she says Cordell was concerned about getting back to the shop after making this drop off. Says they come in the white Escalade, that she's concerned because he needs to get back to the shop and get things squared away for the day, because he's got to get back for his tether. Again, corroborating this lady's statement that says she saw Naziah, that Naziah sits in her living room and that they're together. Now, this to me is important because it tells you that if this guy was planning at that time to kill her, he's not going to be bringing her all over town. He was planning. He thought, again, he was going to be doing something to take care of that pregnancy. That's what I believe. And of course, whatever he did not go well, obviously, because she's not here anymore. So, Cindy, there's some people that have, and I'm going to address this right now. There are some people, because this has been coming out for a lot of people have been asking this. There's a lot of speculation. My understanding is, from my research, it's that he was in jail due to a parole violation, and that he will be getting out sometime this fall. Now, others have said it was the parole violation was in relationship to a domestic violence situation. There's some that have said he's involved in another case of unaliving. I don't know, 100%. I've been trying to figure that out. It has not been reported in any of the media coverage that has come out in regards to his testimony. Nobody has said, but I believe it is a parole violation. That is what I believe he is in for. So we move on. They call another witness. This one, you got to watch this lady to believe her testimony. Okay. This is his fiance. Okay. This is, and I'm not sure if I have her name right, but, her name is, I believe, Dorencia Johnson. And she basically says that Jarvis used her car on the 9th, on the 9th of January, that he came, picked up her car and was using her car. And then I think he used it at another time as well. So borrowed her car twice in January. First time on January 9th. Explains that he picks the car up around 9 p.m. and returns it the next morning. Now, there's a significant factor here because she doesn't see Naziah with him. She does not see Naziah with him at that time. So that's very significant. So the question is, what happened? Did whatever he did, was it done already by 9 o'clock? Because we know at 8 o'clock or a little before 8, like 7:45, we know that Cordell's already off. So, the situation, absolutely, Carla, because she's still missing. We, if there's any chance, we want to put her up, but she's the one that we're all here for, to try to get her hopefully found, whether it's alive or not, and get her respectfully. If she is not alive, and I don't believe she is, then get her respectfully laid to rest. But the point is here is that at 9 o'clock, something may have already happened. Now, I don't know, maybe not. But the question is, why is he borrowing her car? Why did he need to borrow her car at that time? And I don't know. Now, Naziah could have been back at the shop, and he could have just gone over, picked up the car, come back, picked her up. But we know he checks into the Park Crest Hotel at 9:30. So, and we know that at the hotel, there is no signs of anything happening. So we have to assume that whatever happened somewhere else. You know, I got you. Okay. So this is, yeah. Okay. So you're correct. This is not the fiance because I think she's the next one that comes up. But no, this is one of his baby mamas, I guess, that he has a son with. But they go and, this to me, like I said, is very significant because it gets into the idea here of what exactly has happened and when it happened. Because at 9 o'clock, for whatever reason, he's picking this car up. Now, we know that it's very possible that Naziah was in the car, or at least her belongings were in the car, because a pair of prescription glasses, and if you look at the picture up behind me, you see she's wearing prescription glasses, were found in the car. And it's found days later when they're in the car, and the son finds it and says, hey, here's the, he's playing with them, and he says, no, those are mine, give those to me. And the other thing that comes up, in this is that that she has phone contact with him after he turns himself in, and she talks to him, and basically she confirms that the call's an accurate depiction, and what he's talking about is the glasses. And discusses various concerns that she didn't clean or wipe up anything, and they played this call in court. So we're gonna listen to that. Give me one moment here, and we'll pull this up. All right. All right, and here we go. Let me switch this up. We got it queued up here. All right, cue this up. And let me get this shared here. Okay, make sure we're sharing the right one. And there we are. All right, so here we go. Let me turn this on here, and here is the testimony or the phone call.
Wayne County Jail. This call is subject to recording and monitoring. The inmate has requested that you pay for this call. If you don't wish to talk, hang up now. Thank you for using Tony. Yeah.
Anyway, I got one more for you to do. 313-207-2195. Hello? 207. 219.
217.
Huh?
217.
0. Hello? Hello? Hello?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Alright, well, I don't know what the fuck going on, man, but yeah, they done did everybody shit.
You said what?
I said, I don't know what the fuck going on, but they done did everybody shit.
Everybody shit. You on everybody house? They come to my shit?
I don't know.
I don't even think they know of me.
But I need you to, anything that I had, anything that I touched, that's for yourself, man. Anything about me, man. That's for your goddamn self. You feel me?
Yeah.
Huh?
Serious.
Yeah, so just to go to mama's house.
Going on.
Yeah. Go to your mama's house, man.
Alright.
All right, so that's the phone. That's the crux of the phone call. He's basically calling her, telling her that they're searching him, that they're coming after him. He doesn't know what's going on. He's concerned. Now, the main point of her testimony was these glasses. Now, the main problem is she didn't seem to be too. She wasn't 100% on whether or not these were prescription glasses. She wasn't even, and the defense points this out, but. To me, the fact that there was glasses that she said could have been prescription glasses found in her backseat is a link that says he comes and gets this car 9 o'clock. He's doing something. He's planning to do something, obviously, with Naziah. Now, my thought is what happens is he's coming to get this car because he's planning to drive her off to the motel across town or wherever this is at. I'm not 100% certain of where everything is, but I know it was a distance away from the shop. Drive her up there to go do whatever it is that he's planning to do. And, of course, this whole thing goes off the rails, and then he ends up, proceeding with having to do whatever he did to get rid of this body after it went awry. But the next witness that takes the stand is Tashiana Davis. Now, she confirmed, this is actually, I had it wrong. This is the one that is his fiance. And she basically says that they've been engaged or confirms that they've known each other for 4 years, that they've been engaged since 2020, basically at that time for about 4 years. She describes the relationship as saying that they didn't have children together, that he would stay at their house. He didn't live at their house. She mentioned that she drove him to court twice on January 9th and on February 7th, says that he was supposed to turn himself in on the 9th, but that he told the court that he had another legal issue in another county that he needed to get taken care of, and they gave him until the February 7th to be ready to turn himself in, and he was told to come back to court and turn himself in there. Now, this is the individual that he left the phone in, and she says that she didn't even know until the police come to her and say, hey, there's a phone in your car, and they search her car. He told her he left it back at the house, and she says she was always trying to get in his phone because she always knew he was dealing with other women, and she was trying to, always figure out what was going on. But she says, that that this was something that, that was an issue before. She said she even would try to put the phone in front of his face when he was sleeping to try to get into it because she knew he was in there actively seeing other women. It is, like I said, disturbing to me that this woman, knowing who he was, had to have had an idea that he'd been in prison before, that she was associating with him. But this is who this is who at least he identified as his fiance, and they had been together for 4 years. And she drove him to the jail, or drove him to court, where he turned himself in. And of course, he's never been free since that day on February 7th. Now, she was in the hospital when the police come and they tell her they have a warrant for her car. They go out, they search her car. Okay. All right, give just a second, buddy. They tell her that they have a warrant for the car to search the vehicle, and they proceed on to search the car and find a phone, which inside the phone is a treasure trove of stuff, because that's where they find these disgusting messages that we'll get into in a little while. Now, the next person that testifies is Valerie Louise Smith. Now, she's introduced. She's a lady who finds Naziah's school ID on the ground. She walks past it for 2 weeks. She finds it, and she ends up calling the police. Finally, they come down, they get it, and she's basically, I believe it's on the street near. Let's see, where did they say that this was at? It was the ID was introduced as evidence in the courtroom here. Hold on, we'll go to the next one. But I believe 2.5 weeks before March 7th, and that's the interesting thing. This ID is on the street, and it's in the same area where these clothes were found. So what that indicates to me is that it must have dropped out. That there must have been her clothes or items. And the question is like, when did things get disposed of, and who did he have helping? Because if that ID gets dropped in March, this guy's in jail on February 7th. So this is a strong evidence that he had helpers. Because how in the world did this get dropped? And she said she noticed it for about 2.5 weeks, but it was well after the time that he would have been in jail. So that's a big deal to me, at least, looking at saying, is there other people that need to be investigated and looked at? So after she testifies, we have this individual here. He's Agent Wyatt Barnes, and he actually is the one who found the Nike shoes, the clothes, and the items that eventually are DNA tested and are found to have blood, and some of the items are found to have Jarvis's DNA on them. So they go over, they show where these things were found. They were found, and he says they were found on the riverbank, or they were searching the riverbank. And it was then when they found this, he said there was a onesie found apparently, and he confirms that that there was no significant aging or anything like this. Like it had been something that would have been probably within the last month or two that it had been out there, or maybe even dropped. I mean, this is significant to me, because if this stuff, he kind of made it sound like if something happened to her on January 9th, that whenever they were disposing of this stuff, it was happening recently. And this is in March. So I have a real concern there, because that's telling me that somebody else knows something here, that there's someone else that helped him, who was working with him, who was helping him with this. And we don't know what happened here. We don't know if what happened on the 9th. We don't know if he turns her over to somebody and then they take her, they get rid of her. We don't. My thought is maybe the grandma and the aunt were more involved in this, and they were disposing of things, or there's other people that we don't even know about. But to me, this is evidence again that there was somebody else involved in this, because this guy goes to jail and these things start showing up, and then they say, oh, but there isn't evidence that these things were sitting out there for 2 or 3 months, and yet this guy is in jail on the 7th of February. So if these things look like they were out there fairly recently, within like a 2-week span, he couldn't have been the one to put them out there. And that's going to be a problem when this stuff goes to court, to trial, because these are the things that they could try to use to raise doubt about the state's case. But I think, like I said, as we're going to get into other stuff, that there's an overwhelming amount of evidence that he was absolutely involved in this. So the next person that comes on is a cell phone specialist, Melanie O'Rourke. She's a sergeant at the police department, and she basically testifies that she, handled analyzing the phone. She downloads the phone. She downloads mapping, and she gets into showing that he is at the Pike Crest or Park Crest Motel, that he's in the area where this stuff was found. And they're able to see that he was there up until 1:34 a.m. It looks like that he was there between 10:53 and 1:11 a.m. from 10:53 on the 9th to 1:11 a.m. on January 10th. He is at the Park Crest Motel. And she basically gives us the time that whatever happened probably happened during that period of time. Whatever went awry happened during that time. The question is, what did he do after that? Where did he take her? Where did he take the body? We don't know, because as we're going to later find out, when the DNA testing goes, they're testing the mattress pad, the stuff in the bedroom, in that motel room, and there's no signs that there was massive blood. There's no signs that there was any massive amount of blood or struggle or anything in that hotel room. Now, it doesn't mean that there would have been, because if she's doing whatever she's doing, it could have happened at the toilet, or it could have, there's various different ways that she could have, ingested things or whatever, and maybe she was taken somewhere to wait it out and she passes away, and they have to deal with that. But to me, I think that, I think whatever happened or was attempting to happen happens during that time when they say he's at the Park Crest Motel during that period of time. And then whatever occurred. And then he runs into a scenario where, because he's there for over 2 hours, and we're trying to figure it out now. What happened? How did this go down? So the next person that gets on the stand is Erica Anderson. Now, she discusses, she's an expert in DNA analysis. This is where we start to get into the DNA testing. And she explains that the DNA that she tests, and we have a clip here from her talking about it, but she gets into testing those key pieces of DNA, or not key pieces of evidence. And she gets some pretty interesting results. So we're going to play a clip here from her testimony, because she tests those items that were found on the riverbed, and the results of those are, in my opinion, very concerning, and absolutely prove, or potentially prove, that Jarvis was involved in this, because his DNA is present as well as Nazia's. And I think this shows that something happened that involved her bleeding, and something happened that involved the clothes she was wearing that day, and something happened indicating that she never wore anything else, because if there was blood, if there was, something happening, that would be indicative that it happened that day, and that's the day her life ended. But here is a snippet of that testimony, and you can find this entire testimony there's a playlist in the description, and you can check it out. Here it is.
There were 2 individuals in that black hoodie stain swab. The first one, 5AD, and I would compare each of the known individuals to the sample. So initially it would be Jarvis Butts, and on one unrelated unknown contributor, and then on the other hypothesis would be 2 unrelated unknown contributors. So based on those results from the black hoodie stain swabs, it was approximately 460 times more likely if it originated from Jarvis Butts and an unknown contributor than if it was from 2 unrelated unknown contributors. And this provides moderate support that Jarvis Butts is a contributor to the black hoodie stain swabs.
Okay. And you can't say what that stain was, can you?
No.
Okay. And then you said you did one for Jarvis Butts, and you did one for Nazia Harris.
Correct. So when comparing Nazia Harris, it's approximately 3.7 million times more likely if it originated from Nazia Harris and 1 unrelated contributor than if it were from 2 unrelated unknown contributors. And this provides very strong support that Nazia Harris is a contributor to the black hoodie stain swabs.
And in interpretation 3, this is the second of the black hoodie stain swabs, 5BD. When they're separated like that, when you have like 5BD and 5AD, does that tell you that they're different parts that are being swabbed, different areas?
Generally, it will be 2 different stains on the same item, but the person that actually took those swabs, they would best be able to describe where they were collected from.
Okay. So as it relates to 5BD, the black hoodie stain swabs, what did you find there?
That was one individual in that sample, and it genetically typed as female.
And so if that's the case, what was your hypothesis then?
So comparing Isaiah Harris to that sample, it was 3.6 octillion times more likely if it originated from Isaiah Harris than if it was from an unrelated unknown contributor. And this provides very strong support that Isaiah Harris is the contributor to that black hoodie stain swab. And then I compare Jarvis Butts as well, and he's excluded from it to his single source samples.
Okay, and would that be because you found that it was only from one individual genetically typed as female?
Correct, yeah. When comparing him, he was excluded.
Okay. And when you say octillion, not a math person, how many zeros is that?
That is 27 zeros.
Okay. And in interpretation number 4, we have just black hoodie swabs, and that's 5CD. And you have two analyses here, one with Jarvis and one with Isaiah. What did you find as it relates to the comparison with Jarvis?
So the black hoodie swabs, generally these are taken to see who may have possibly worn it, or skin cells opposed to stain swabs. So I determined that this was from 3 individuals. There were 3 individuals in that sample, and at least one of them genetically typed as male. And when comparing it to Jarvis Butts, it was approximately 2.1 million times more likely if it originated from Jarvis Butts and 2 unrelated unknown contributors than if it originated from 3 unrelated unknown contributors. And this provides very strong support that Jarvis Butts is a contributor to the black hoodie swabs.
And what about the comparison to Isaiah?
When comparing Isaiah Harris, it was 97 sextillion times more likely if it originated from Isaiah Harris and 2 unrelated unknown contributors than if it originated from 3 unrelated contributors. And this also is very strong support that Isaiah Harris is a contributor to the black hoodie swabs.
And how many zeros after your sextillion?
Sextillion is 21. And just for reference, anything over 1 million is considered very strong support.
Okay. And your next interpretation is to the pink bodysuit stain swabs. And you performed this assuming that there was 2 individuals. What was your comparison as it relates to Jarvis Butts?
When comparing to Jarvis Butts, it was 6.3 times more likely if it originated from Jarvis Butts and 1 unrelated unknown contributor than if it originated from 2 unrelated unknown contributors. And this provides limited support that Jarvis Butts is a contributor to the pink bodysuit stain swabs.
Okay. And as it relates to Isaiah Harris?
It is approximately 60 septillion times more likely if it originated from Isaiah Harris and 1 unrelated unknown contributor than if it originated from 2 unrelated unknown contributors. And this provides very strong support that Isaiah Harris is a contributor to the pink bodysuit stain.
How many zeros in septillion?
Septillion is 24.
So there you have it. Very, very, very strong numbers there supporting that Isaiah Harris's blood DNA was found on those items and Jarvis's was found on some of those items. So this means that those items that were found on the riverbed had to have been handled by Jarvis, and more likely than not were put there by Jarvis, which I guess would mean that it would have had to have been put there prior to the 7th of February, more likely than not was probably put there sometime in January, whenever he disposed of her body or did whatever he did with her body. And I think her body's probably in that river. I think they need to drain or go out and do a deeper search of that river. I question whether or not they have actually done as thorough of a search as they probably should, or maybe there were things that caused them not. But I would say that's a great spot to start, and more likely than not where he put her body. Now, the next witness that we move on to, because now we've got the tie-in, we've got DNA on these items, and they're going to tell you what was found on the items, which is going to kind of give you an idea of what happened with these items, and it's going to give you an idea, again, delving into what exactly more likely than not happened with Neziah Harris. So the next witness that comes on is Detective Jason Mays. Now, Detective Mays actually speaks with and had a conversation with the defendant here. So he talks about that he was working with his department, with his partner Liz Johnson, that they on February 15, 2024, that they conduct an interview with Jarvis, who was not in custody for purpose of the interview. He states that the interview takes place at the police department headquarters. Now, I put up a snippet of this. It's in the clips. If you just want to watch the interview itself, you can also watch his testimony in its entirety if you want to see this. We're not going to play it because, again, all of these interviews are kind of hard to hear anyways. But Mr. Butts was advised of his constitutional rights, which he acknowledged by signing the form. He provides the phone number of his phone, which was later discovered and later had all of the text and things of that nature. They were all found on that phone. That's where the app was found on. And Jarvis tells them that they discussed about the last time he saw Neziah Harris, which he says was towards the end of January 2024. His various legal things he mentions, the bus stop at 3M Drive and a confrontation involving some girls, but he was not sure of all the details. And he says that she would come to his shop, and he basically just says, like, he's not involved. They have an uncle-niece relationship. She would stop by. She would sweep up at the shop. And it was more of a first conversation with him that allowed these detectives to then start tearing apart that statement, where we later hear when the lead detective, who the lead investigator is on this case, testifies, she gets into how they just tore it apart, and they go in and they investigate his phone and they investigate people, and they realize that a lot of what he said in his interview was a lie. This was not the lead detective on the case. So he, in cross-examination, he did say, listen, I didn't go out and verify these things. I just kind of took the statement from them, passed it on to the people that were in charge. But Jarvis in this case plays everything off, but he sets himself up to be discredited and gives them something to work off of. And that was the purpose of this statement and what they played here. So they play where Jarvis is locking himself in to things that are now going to be disproved, like Cordell saying, yeah, he was there. He picked them up. Yes, he was there that day. He says he wasn't, but he said he saw her in some sort of a confrontation at the bus stop that day. And again, these are things that are later, as we get to the next few witnesses, completely discredited, and locks them in. So the next witness we have is George Harris. Now he actually discovers, he's an investigator, or at least at the time he was an investigator for the public schools police department. He headed the investigation originally, and he actually goes and gets her school tablet and discovers that she has a Text Now account on there, and that there were Text Now messages, and the messages were sent. That she sent the following messages: don't forget to be there before 3. I will let you know when I'm leaving school. If you're not there, I will wait. She says, send okay if you're seeing the message so I can delete your number. And then he says, okay. So what does this tell you? This tells you that there was a plan in place that she knew, and she's text nowing him, and that they had a plan to meet up and do something that day. And that she did not go against her will. She went knowingly. She went openly because they had something that they were going to be doing that day, and there was a purpose for him to pick her up. It also, in my opinion, lends credibility to the idea that probably the grandma, probably the aunt, all knew she was going with Jarvis that day and wasn't coming home, hence why they really didn't get all concerned with calling the police that day, because she was supposed to be doing something with Jarvis to take care of that baby, in my opinion. Now he says that he interviewed teachers, classmates, and lockers were searched, classrooms were searched. They didn't find her. And they said that then he ultimately concludes that she's missing, and he passes this off now to the Detroit Police Department for them to actually begin an investigation in the missing persons unit. And he passes it off and took this basically as far to establish that she's not at the school. She's not hidden in the school. He testified that kids sometimes do that. And he, establishes that that's definitely not the situation here in this. So the next thing that we go into is Antonio Carlisi. Now we're going to play this. This is another one that I have a clip from, because this is important, because we're going to play this really just, because this is an important part, because this is the last known footage. This is the last sighting of this young lady. This is it. This is what the world has of her. Because what you see here, she's never seen on video again that we know of. Now she's seen by others, but this is her after she gets off the bus stop. So we're going to watch this. Let me pull this up here. Give me a moment. And cue this up here. And again, you can watch this entire testimony that you're about to see. This is a clip from the testimony. You can watch this. There is
I'm not going to ask you to narrate what
playlist on the channel, but here it is. This is the final footage of Neziah Harris alive.
Right side of the screen.
Correct.
And where is that bus approximately stopping right now on the screen?
That's stopping right approximately at 3 Mile Drive.
And Cornwall?
Cornwall.
Okay. And we're looking at Bedford from this view?
Yeah, we're looking eastbound from the house of 4803 towards down Cornwall towards 3 Mile Drive.
Okay. Continuing playing from 9 seconds. And moving to Exhibit 50 and playing from the beginning. And moving now to Exhibit 51. And stopping at 6 seconds.
And that is the last known footage of Neziah alive.
A timestamp on this video that you can see.
Now, the rest of this testimony, we'll leave that up right now while we're talking. The rest of that video is just them confirming the timestamps, confirming the day it is, doing all the things they need to do to verify this. But that is the last known shot of her alive. And she's walking wherever she's walking. And shortly thereafter, she's picked up by Jarvis, who is with Cordell, who Cordell tries to say this is kind of just a random moment where he sees her walking and he picks her up. So, again, very, very significant. Because this is the last known footage of her. So they established this. This is that she gets off the bus. You can see the clothes she's wearing. You can see that they match. The jacket matches. It's kind of difficult to see the shoes, but you can see the clothes she's wearing, that she's wearing that jacket. She's wearing those clothes. And it becomes, again, this is something that links her to the clothes that are later found, as we're about to get into. When they identify blood and things that were found on those clothes, it becomes significant because it establishes that she, in fact, whatever happened to her life ended on the 9th, because she never, ever put on any other clothes, because she was wearing those clothes when she bled, when whatever happened, which are later found on the riverbank, where, of course, she's never been found again. Now, the next witness that is called is basically a lady that she's from the cold case. I actually figured out there was actually 2 witnesses because there was technical difficulties in viewing inside the courtroom. I thought it was one, but they basically call this lady who testifies that she went and retrieved the register at the park motel and confirmed that Jarvis was the one that signed the register. 2, there's another lady that comes on who did his cell phone extraction. Then they call this guy, Dr. Reese. And this doctor here, basically, again, I'm not really sure. I mean, I guess he was called in because they really have to establish or try to establish that her death occurred from some sort of involuntary action, that it wasn't natural or something like that. So they call this guy in because he reviews her medical records. He's basically just the guy that was called in. He reviews her medical records and says, I see nothing in the medical records that indicates she had any type of ailment that would have killed her. Also, significantly enough, he doesn't see anything in there about a pregnancy either. So it shows you that, she wasn't being taken to the doctor. Nobody had discovered it. Again, this is one of those perfunctory witnesses that comes in for just because they're having to establish the different elements of the crime that they need to move this case forward. The next person that testifies is Rion Green. Now, this is a significant witness because she testifies, and we're going to just kind of go through piece by piece here as we look at what she comes out. So she explains that she used 3 tests, phenyl, hemostix, and hematrace. She says positive results indicate the possible presence of blood. That would be a hematrace. A hematrace test confirms human blood. She says there's various stains that were tested on the bodysuit and black hoodie. She says that the phenyl test identified some stains were positive for blood, while the hematrace confirmed human blood on the hoodie. So what this is significant of is just showing what was on there, that it wasn't something that was, maybe there was an animal or something that bled on it while it was out in the wilderness. So this is something that's very important. Even though there was DNA found on it, they still need to establish that it's blood, it's human blood. So she says that that there was they did test for male bodily fluids. That was negative. So there was nothing on there that indicated there was any activity going on that would have gotten those fluids on there. And she says that, we're flipping here. She says that she used a blood sample that was from Uzziah Harris, was used as a reference sample. I guess a blood card. So I guess she must have given blood or something, or at some point, and that's how she was able to get it. But she said that the testing of the trunk, carpet, and door frame was negative for blood. So it means that whatever happened, the body wasn't transported in the car, or at least she wasn't bleeding when it was. She says that the shoulder area and lower back stains were tested positive for human trace of blood. So it means there was blood on her shoulder, blood on the lower back area. Again, it doesn't tell us much as far as what happened when you're looking at those stains, but it does say that there was blood, that she was bleeding. I mean, to me, that would be indicative that maybe she was bleeding from somewhere, in an area that would have been there if she was trying, if they were doing something to take care of the baby, and she's getting it everywhere, especially in the lower back area. But the pink bodysuit, and we're going to go through here, tested positive for blood. The black hoodie tested positive for blood, but the trunk carpet did not test positive for blood. The trunk speaker did not test positive for blood. The trunk frame did not test positive for blood. So again, this is where this case gets odd. It's like, how did he get her where did it happen at, what happened, what occurred. So what I think occurs is I think she bled to death because there's other ways she could have bled to death, and that could have gone right into a toilet because she was just of what they were trying to do and accomplish. And then they can't get her medical attention because if they get her medical attention, well, guess what? This whole thing they're trying to not get out gets out. And then they have a lot more to explain why this young girl is bleeding from an at-home situation that's going on. So this tells us that there was blood, and this tells us that there was blood on the hoodie, that there was blood on this little pink onesie that was found with all this stuff. And that tells us, again, that this is what she was wearing. These are items she was wearing the day she went missing. And that tells you that whatever happened to her happened in those clothes, more likely happening on the day that she went missing, which is the 9th, or maybe sometime later in the morning of the 10th, early morning of the 10th. That tells us that's when she passed away. That's what you can take from that. And that's a major significant fact. Now, the next witness that gets on the stand is a witness who was he was from the Detroit Police cyber crimes unit. He talks about extracting. He did extractions from the tablet. He did an extraction from the Amazon tablet. And he said that he extracted information on the Instagram account. And he confirms that on the Instagram account and on the Facebook account that there was communications and that they were associated with both, that she was associated with JB, which we can assume was Jarvis Butts, and that Facebook identified as a friend interaction. This was just meant to say they were linked, that they were talking, they were in communication. And again, you have to wonder if they're linked like this and all this is going on. To me, I feel like the aunt and the grandma had to discover this at some point, and to me said, listen, go take care of it. And that is correct. Yes, that is correct. The CPS person, which the judge talks about that, says that essentially the school did nothing. The school counselor did nothing. And her counselor never showed up in school when she left. So she was failed by her school. She was failed by her caretakers. It's a really, really sad situation. Now, the next person that comes on is Shannon Jones. And basically, Shannon is the lead investigator, and she's the final witness in this case. And essentially, to summarize her testimony, it goes on for a couple of days. There is text messages that are absolutely horrendous. They are some of the worst I've ever heard, in my opinion. And the idea that some of this interaction that you hear in these text messages happened when she was 12 is unbelievable. But she basically walks through the case. She walks them through the case of establishing through Cordell and through the various witnesses that we've heard in this case as she goes through and she collects all of this. And then they play a police interrogation that was recorded at the jail, not at the police station. It's absolutely really terrible quality. You can't really understand what the hell's going on. But it's hard to understand, but we're going to go through this. She says she basically starts out her testimony. She says she's been in the missing person unit since 2013. She explains the concept of a no body case where someone is presumed to be a homicide victim. And she discusses the case, highlighting the suspicious circumstances before and after, the lack of social media, essentially establishing that she believes Naziah is not alive. Now, she talks about that that there were recovered items from Mr. Butt's vehicle, including an iPhone, firearms that were part of a search. She talks about that they did extensive searches with dive teams, helicopters, cadaver dogs, that they searched from the river 8 Mile from along the river from 8 Mile to past 96. She says that the river search, they found a red and black pair of Nikes, initially missed. that were later located and recovered. She said these shoes were connected to the Naziah Harris case. They were identified by the grandma and aunt as being hers. She says they found a black hoodie and a pink jumpsuit near the shoes, suggesting that those were, all linked together, which we later find out has DNA from Naziah Harris, has DNA from Jarvis Butts. She talks about the mapping and the timelines, and that shows that he had visited Tiana Butts at the 9,000 corner address on January 9th. She says this was vital for tracking Mr. Butts' movement and corroborates investigation findings. She talks about that she got the Google history from Mr. Butts. And this is where it's pretty significant, because in these Google searches, he's searching things like, can I drink red antifreeze? Is there a herbal way of getting rid of a baby? She says that she's, that there was, I guess, discussions and messages being sent to Kenetta Harris, who is the mother of Naziah Harris, that he was actually in contact with her. And I guess, like I said, they play this May 31st interrogation that they did. It was really very difficult to understand. The key evidence that were mentioned this first day is that they found firearms in his car. They found phones and tablets that were recovered from Mr. Butt's home, that they were able to later get these messages off, which we'll get into in the next day. They found the red and black shoes on the riverbed. They found text messages between Mr. Butts and various individuals, including Kenetta Harris. And again, maybe Kenetta Harris might be the connection here, that maybe she helped with this. And to me, I think that, that's something that needs to be looked into. Now, the suspicious internet searches, we get into this just to kind of break it down a little bit more. How to disappear without a trace, how to silence someone without leaving evidence, best ways to avoid surveillance cameras, what happens to a body after drowning, and is it possible to fake a suicide? So it appears, I think the significant one in here is what happens to a body after drowning, because that would indicate that that's what he did and that's where he puts this body. These searches appear to indicate that he was considering drastic actions, and wanting to do something crazy here. He also searches what's the most isolated areas in Detroit, disposal sites near Belle Isle, safe places to hide a car in Detroit. So you can tell this guy's searching something to do something to this girl. And these are all searches leading up to January. So this also brings into doubt, possibly, maybe he actually just told her that he was going to be trying to help get rid of the baby and planned to just get rid of her and the baby, and thought that's the best way to do this. Now, there were text message exchanges, where he was trying to pressure Naziah into revealing something that says, if you tell anyone, you'll regret it. No one will believe you if you try to make this public. He also was texting your friends, asking about a pregnancy. Do you know where she's at? There were text messages on the day that said, it's done, no going back now. That he sent a cryptic text message to her. That, basically that they got to, whatever they're planning to do. And we know they were meeting up. So it's what's the best way to clean a car if someone was in it? Do you know anything about handling police questions? These are searches he's searching after the fact. His email account, there was a communication with an anonymous email service and encrypted messaging platforms, which he used. And one of the disturbing messages was an email sent to Naziah claiming that he was doing this for her own good and that she needed to disappear before it's too late. This was sent around the same time that she went missing. So, in my opinion, to me, it seems like that he might have been trying to lay the tracks here, that after something happened to her, he's sending her emails and he's trying to make it seem like she ran off or she disappeared after this thing happens. I'll be with you in just a second.
No, you're taking
So the combination, so to me, it sounds like, I think that he might have been attempting to get rid of her, or to make it look like she ran off after he already knew that she was gone and that she was missing. So the next day, and we'll move on here, she gets on the witness stand and she testifies. This is when it gets really bad. And these are just some of the clips of these messages. And these are censored. And we're going to, we're going to go with the censored versions here, but it says, "Can you suck my, please?" This is being sent to a 12-year-old girl. "Make sure you erase this message." There was, let's go through here. There was these are key messages that we have here. "Bald-headed Jonna, come here. We doing it at your choice. You sure?" Messages like, "You blank, just looking at you. Hey, you may think I'm ignoring you, but I'm not. My phone is broke. Didn't I blank faster than ever?" And again, this is being sent between a 12-year-old and a 40-year-old man. "Bay, I didn't go see nobody, I swear." This is her to him. "Pick me up before you pick up Jonna. Still my blank, though." And that is talking about a piece of his anatomy. "In the shower right now. I'll text you when I get out. Hope you know we blank today." That was talking about having sexual relations today. It's unbelievable stuff. And you need to go in and watch this testimony. There's several versions of it. You can watch each day as it came out. You can watch, of course, the live on each of these days. And then I also put out yesterday, the entire testimony. You can sit down and watch it in one helping, and it's unbelievable. And you can see some of the other things that are set up here. The censored part are all sexually explicit terms that are being used. So these are played, these are read, and it's absolutely disgusting. But what it shows is that they clearly had a relationship. It looks like she was pregnant. And based on the fact that we have the cameras of her, we have her getting off the bus. We have messages saying they were meeting up. We have Cordell saying they were together. We know that the last time she's ever seen is at the shop right after as Cordell leaves, and they've settled for the day. And then we know that he borrows a car. We know he gets a hotel room, and we know after that she's never seen again. We know that items of hers that she was wearing that night are then found on the riverbed with his DNA and her DNA on it. So to me, it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming evidence that he did something to her. It's overwhelming evidence that she's no longer alive. And it's overwhelming evidence to me that this guy is an absolute predator. Predator. That is the only way to describe him. Now, after we get through that testimony, the prosecution comes up. And the prosecution makes their argument and basically covers the timeline of events. And what they walk us through, we're going to walk through what the timeline of events was that they said. So the prosecutor says, okay, that we see Naziah on camera at 2:56 p.m. walking through 3M Drive. Witnesses testify that she's later seen with Jarvis Butts. The sergeant's testimony places his Jarvis phone right near the shop in Lilani, right where all these people say he was. They talk about the distinctive jacket that she was wearing, that's later found out, with all these items that you see in the surveillance film as she's walking. Other people saw her wearing that jacket, the ladies that identified her as being with him that afternoon. Cordell confirms it. Cordell says that she matches that. So says that the events at the Park Crest Inn take place, and says that Jarvis checks in at 9:30. No messages from Jarvis to Naziah after the 9th. That indicates that all these messages, they were messaging on text now like crazy. They stopped. The hoodie and clothing is then found with DNA evidence on it. The text messages indicate that there was a potential pregnancy. You've got, again, concealment efforts, that there was time to clean up the whatever he used. There was time to dispose of evidence. There was time to lie. The biggest pieces of evidence are the text messages, the clothing, and the witness testimonies that place him with her on the final day of her life at the final moments before she's never heard from again. And to me, it's absolutely just overwhelming. And again, you can watch that argument. It's in the witness testimony playlist. You can also watch it as part of the live hearing broadcast. You can find that in that playlist as well. The defense comes in and basically says, okay, their concern is that that they're not proving that she's gone, that there's not enough evidence to show that she actually died. There's not enough evidence to show that she died of a result of some sort of act or violent act from him. That is what the premise and the crux of their argument is. They argue that there's no eyewitnesses. They argue that there's no medical records to confirm that she was pregnant. And again, you have to remember, when they take this to trial, they have to prove these things beyond a reasonable doubt. So the defense is actually on a little bit stronger grounds probably than a lot of people would like them to be, because these things, again, when you get to the trial, it's proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, for me, though, I think that with the fact that there's no data at all past the 9th, that there's no indication of anything happening with her, that's strong evidence that she died on the 9th, or whatever happened somewhere on the 9th to the 10th, but that she was not living once you got past the early mornings of the 10th. Now I had a question here. Jamie asked if I think that Cordell was involved. I don't think Cordell was involved. No, because Cordell was on a tether and Cordell could have been involved after the fact, but whatever happened to her, I think happened between her and Jarvis. I think things got out of control. The thing that kind of concerns me, though, is you would have thought he would have been calling somebody. You would have thought he would have been reaching out to people, and they did not necessarily see that happening in his phone records. Doesn't mean that he, obviously if he realizes something's going awry, I think that he would have had to have said, okay, let me go. Maybe he went and reached out to these people, without doing it through a phone, because he realized something really bad had happened. But no, I think he's involved. I think the aspect I would see him being involved would have been in a cover-up. But I mean, listen, Cordell showed up at work the next day. So I'm not 100%. I think he knows more. I think he knew more about their relationship. I think he might have even known what was going to be going down. But involved? No, I don't think he really was involved, besides maybe helping them cover some stuff up. I think that, I don't know. I don't know. But I think it should be investigated. But I think the fact that he was on a tether and they really could verify his whereabouts, that I don't think he was involved in whatever actually happened, but I think he did cover up. I think that's where he's involved and should be held accountable for. So anyways, the judge then gives what I think was one of the most amazing rulings, and we're going to watch. I have a little video on there. We will end with that, because she absolutely called out everybody that needed to be called out. And I think it was absolutely fantastic, what she did. But let me find it here real quick and get this queued up here. It is, I think I put that in the clips, actually. Hold on. There it is. Give me one moment here, guys. I apologize. It's the one thing I did not get. I can find it pretty quickly. There it is, right here. Put this up here. All right. So the judge's ruling, and then we'll go over what the contents of the ruling, but I want to play this because, or at least a portion of it. And again, you can find the judge's ruling and all these other things in the playlist there that I have from the clips. You can also find it in the live broadcast. But if you want to see what I thought was a judge doing a really good job at calling some people out, and I hope that whatever can be done to investigate the other people is done. I hope that they're investigated to the fullest amount that the law can allow, given the circumstances. And I think that that needs to be done because I think that there's definitely more to this than we know. So let's turn this on right here and let's let this judge take it away.
You've been sitting over there for 4 days with your head down, sitting between and behind your attorney with your mask on and taking vigorous notes. I want you to pay attention and listen to everything I have to say. I have been trying to figure out for the last 5 days, you. At one point, I thought you were cognitively impaired in the beginning of this exam. And then maybe you had the brain of a 10-year-old, and that's why you were doing such things. But as I heard more and more testimony, you're just the true definition of a pedophile. Watching you laugh and brag about all the women you have with different women and the children and the girlfriends, and making babies to groom them, and having them in your presence, and cleaning up your shop, and the little girls around you, has landed you here today. You groomed Isaiah. You played mind games with her. We all heard that. You controlled her emotionally. She was exposed to so much at such a young age. The text messages between you two were disgusting to hear. And to think that she had you saved in her phone as bae for life. Isaiah deserves so much more. And while I mentioned other people that failed her, Jarvis Butts, you are the monster in this whole picture. She did deserve love from her parents and everyone who was in her life. She was ignored, she was neglected, and you took complete advantage of that. She wanted someone to love her, and she will never know what that feels like. Your children deserve more. As much as defense counsel has raised issues on count 1, all that has done is raise the question of fact for the trier of fact, which means that this will be for a jury or a judge to hear in Third Circuit. I pray for the healing of all the victims and the young girls and possibly boys who have come into contact with you. As a community, we should look at this case as a prime example of how much work we have to do when it comes to protecting our children and especially our black girls. I pray for closure and healing for all those who have been traumatized by you. And for you, Jarvis Butts, I wish you a speedy trial and that justice be delivered. Your bind over date is January 16th at 9 o'clock a.m. Anything else for the record?
Not for the people, Judge. Thank you.
Not for defense. Thank you, Jarvis.
Do the right thing and tell us where she's at, please. I'm sorry, Judge. Just do it, Jarvis. Where is she at, Jarvis? Just tell us. You don't got no resources. Okay, bro.
So those words were spoken by the judge. That she binds him over for trial to the Superior Court. Now, the judge says, essentially, she calls out the counselor, she calls out the family, she calls out everybody that failed this young lady, and I'm glad she did. And she essentially says that she didn't trust the grandma, she didn't trust the aunt, she didn't like the testimony that she saw there. And she said that the community needs to do better and the community needs to hold these people accountable. And I believe the police do too. I think the police need to take a hard look at the people surrounding her. But what she did also say is she said what she thinks happened, and it's what I think happened. And it is that this was an attempt to get rid of this baby, and they knew that this was going to happen. They knew that they were going to try to do this, or that he was going to try to do this, and it went awry, and it didn't go well. And ultimately, he ends up killing her. And then I believe that the reason why this was so easy to happen in the way it did is I believe that there were people helping, like the aunt and the grandma. And that we may look at those as people after the fact that helped when this thing went awry, when this thing went wild, because we know Jarvis was in contact with them. We know there were calls. We know that, but we know that there was no contact on the 9th. But the idea that these people would go to sleep at night, not first time this girl's ever disappeared, and they do nothing. They do not a thing. They call a couple people and they go to sleep and they say, "Oh, I'll go to the school tomorrow." It's like they were talking like a lost laptop or a lost book bag. That's what you do. Then I'll go to school. We'll check it out tomorrow in the morning. Not a missing granddaughter. Okay. Not a missing niece. This is insane that they would even attempt, that they would even attempt to push that off as credible, because it's not credible. And it shows you that these people, in my opinion, did not care about this little girl. And I definitely think that aunt did not like her because of what she found out. I'm sure when this is all found out, and it's like, Jarvis, you better take care of this problem. You got into this. And again, clearly these people all knew. Now I heard, I've been watching other channels and things, and I've heard that allegedly he was involved with the grandma. He was involved with her. This guy was getting it around all over this community. Why? I have no idea. Why so many women wanted to be with a guy who would victimize young ladies and young girls and had victimized allegedly his own children? I have no idea. Apparently there was some appeal there. Apparently these people thought he was something special. But it's very disturbing. It's very disturbing. It's a very disturbing case. And in my opinion, I think that there needs to be a broader investigation. There needs to be an investigation into who was helping him, and who helped him, and who knew what. And I would, Nikki G, I agree with you. Nikki G says the auntie probably encouraged him to do the at-home because she felt like that was taking her man. It is. It's absolutely sick. It's disgusting. And Mwink Gordon says, you don't wait 24 hours to file a missing kids report. It would have abso-freaking-lutely, 110%. This is, the fact that these people now you have to understand, prosecutors, they do this stuff. Like, they put these people on the stand because now they're on the record. So my hope is that coming out of this hearing last week, now that they have them with sworn testimony, now that they've locked them in on the witness stand, they've been subjected to cross-examination by the defense. And if you notice, the defense, if you go back and watch these testimonies, the defense really honed in on these people and really hammered in on asking questions, and the state really didn't get too involved in stopping that, because I think the state wanted that, because now they're locked in and now they can start to investigate these people. Kiera says this case is hard to watch. It absolutely is. It absolutely is. And it's sad. It's terrible because, well, thank you. I was taking a risk there to try to see if I could pronounce it right. So I'm glad I did. Notice how the auntie said she passed out missing person flyers because she was told, not because she wanted to. No, listen, these people did not show 1 ounce of sadness. I mean, and that was disturbing. And I think the judge even acknowledged that. Raquel Lee says the school felt guilty because she asked Raquel. Well, absolutely. The school dropped the ball. I mean, there's so many places that this could have been stopped. If that counselor would have come, she's never, they may discover everything that's going on. discovered the baby, all that stuff. It's terrible. They're going to pull the auntie's phone recorder to grandma's records, and they're getting ready to pull every phone record they can pull. Good. I hope so. I hope that they do that, and I hope that they fully investigate this. And again, I hope these people who decide to not call the police when their child is missing, I hope that they are called. Listen, to me, that is irresponsible. That is absolutely just the utmost of irresponsible parenting and neglectful parenting. And to me, that's just child neglect. I mean, prosecutors are charging parents on things, like not securing firearms and things. They didn't secure their child. Okay. So they should be charged. And the prosecutor should take that theory up and say, you know what? Whatever happened, you allowed to happen because you didn't take steps to call the police, who would have then reached out and they would have started investigating Jarvis, and they would have investigated people close to them. And the fact that they didn't do that allowed whatever happened to happen. And I understand, yes, there's going to be precedents, but this is in Michigan. This is the same state that the Crumleys were prosecuted in. And they prosecuted an involuntary manslaughter case based on the premise, even though somebody made a intentional act that would normally break the sequencing of events. In this case, the intentional act was failing to report your child missing, failing to do what you're supposed to do for this child, which then allowed for this man to do what he did to her. In my opinion, is they should be prosecuted, and the prosecutor's office that was willing to take on that case in a school shooting should be willing to take it on in this case and set the precedent that says you don't get to not report your child missing. And if your child is missing, you call the police. And if the police fail to respond, then it's on the police. But you have a duty and a duty of care to your child to ensure that they are protected. And these people failed. And that grandmother adopted her. She had a duty of care, and she should be charged under that premise. She should be charged with child neglect. And you tell me if that goes before a jury, there ain't going to be many sympathetic jurors who are going to look at that and say, hey, man, let's let her off. And you know what? Listen, let's make these people accountable. And, they need to do it. And they need to go after them. And maybe they're going to, because these people, if they would, they have them on the stand now. They have testimony now. They can't get out of it, and they can use that against them. It's really, really, really sad. So, anyways, guys, we're coming on 2 hours. I've got to end this thing. I'm going to go pick up what's going on with my, I'm a Commanders fan. They're playing right now, the Buccaneers, and I'm going to go check that out. And I got to also finish up putting my. I have one child asleep. The other one is up a little bit further past bedtime because I ran this live a little later. So I got to go take care of that business. But look, this case, I hope this young lady gets justice, and I hope they go after these people. We will be watching it on this channel. I will be watching it. I will be watching to see how this gets resolved. I hope this guy does the right thing and it gets to him and he finally steps up, but I don't see him. He's been victimizing children. He's been victimizing people for far too long. He cares only about himself. There's no other explanation than from somebody, that are willing to do these things. It's absolutely disgusting. And, I think that it's sad. It's extremely sad. So, well, thank you guys for watching. And absolutely, this is the stuff we like to cover here. This is what I like to cover. This is what I like to bring attention to and try to get this out there, because to me, I think that this needs to be seen. It's really disgusting to me that this hasn't been picked up by the bigger outlets. Because this is a case that needs to be out here, and we need to watch our kids, and we need to watch the people around us. And if you're not watching your kids, if you're not protecting your kids, then you deserve to be held accountable for that. And this little girl deserved better. And it's heartbreaking to think that this is what she had to endure for her very short time on this earth. But what we can do now is say, you know what, we're going to make sure that she hopefully gets, that people are aware now, and that this individual, we will watch as he is held accountable. And we hope that maybe he decides to have a little bit of a moment of conscience. And, there it is. And thank you, Mocha Unfiltered. No problem. Like I said, I thought it was, would be good to sit here and kind of get an understanding. I saw there was a lot of people, a lot of questions, a lot of things out there. So I thought, let's do this. This hearing was a great place to see the entire case from its entirety, from the beginning to the end, and go watch it yourself. You got it, it's all there. Pick up the different pieces. We will continue to be airing pieces of this hearing and getting it out there, and making sure that people are seeing this, and hopefully other people will pick up on it, and we will see a bigger voice demanding justice for her, demanding justice for the people that absolutely failed her, like the judge said. So with that said, guys, I'm going to sign off here. I appreciate all of you coming in today. I appreciate all 252 of you that are in there. I know we had more than that in here at one point. Very much appreciate you all watching. If you don't mind, hit the like button on the way out. That way more people will watch, more people will see, and people with questions, send them to this video, send them to the playlist. Let them get up to speed on this case, and we got to show up whenever he shows up in court, whether it's virtually or in person. And Andrea Buford, if you're there in person, feel free to come in and let me know how it's going there, because that is absolutely amazing that you're going to do that. And absolutely, let's make a difference, and let's do our part to ensure that justice is served in that courtroom, and that maybe we find this young lady. I don't think we're going to find her alive, but we find her, we bring her home, and we give her a proper burial and rest, and let her rest in peace, because obviously she didn't have a lot of peace when she was here. So she deserves to at least have some peace now. Anyways, guys, with that said, I'll talk to you soon. We got more trials and stuff starting this week. And of course, we'll continue giving this coverage and talking about it. And I'll talk to you guys soon.
The system's rigged, man, it's time to break free. Eyes wide open, gotta see what I see. Standing on the front lines.